Angela, we searched a state database and found that thousands of Ohioans owe literally hundreds of millions of dollars in unpaid business tax, sales tax, and personal income tax. Who are these people, and how is this happening? We wanted to find out.
Oh, yes, I know when Jesus saved me, the very moment he forgave me.
At one time, Dan Bays rubbed elbows with some of the biggest names in politics. But his work as a Republican fundraiser turned selfish, and he used his connections to bilk hundreds of investors out of more than $18 million.
Some people get hooked on alcohol, some get hooked on drugs, you can get hooked on money just as easily. It's an addiction just like anything else.
Bays did 11 years in federal prison, but the $18 million was gone. But the state of Ohio says Bays, now a singing evangelist, still owes $390,000 in state income tax on the fruits of his illegal dealings.
I'm convinced, as I sit here, that God has forgiven me. People aren't as forgiving as God.
State officials estimate that 3/4 of all the tax debt listed is uncollectible, like the $6 million owed by Jack Nemechek, a former bank president who embezzled from his own bank. The money was never recovered. Nemechek died last December. Or the $1.2 million owed by Reuben Sturman of Cleveland, at one time the nation's largest distributor of hardcore pornography. Sturman died 7 years ago in federal prison. The state can go after funds in someone's estate, but in these cases, there was nothing left to collect. There are others on the state list, though, who are very much alive. 10 Investigates found that former Cleveland Browns running back Leroy Hoard is listed as owing more than $225,000 in state income tax from 1995 and 96. Hoard is now living in Florida. He did not return our phone calls. There are big names and small. Businesses like Bob's Locksmith in Grandview. The state says it's still waiting for sales tax payments going back to the late 80s. So we wanted to find out why. Well, the state says that you owe $228,000 in back state sales.
Oh my gosh!
That's ridiculous.
Owner Bobby Thompson claims he didn't know about the debt and denies owing the state anything. But he didn't want to talk to us about it. First he threw us out of his store, then came after us in the parking lot.
You need to put the hammer down.
You're not taping my stuff.
Put the hammer down.
You're not taping my stuff.
Attorney General Jim Petra's office. How may I help you?
120 employees in the Ohio Attorney General's office work full-time to find those who owe and collect.
This year we collected $204 million, which is a huge record for this office. We've gone up $25 to $30 million a year under this administration.
Sue Poehler says the state offers payment plans and helps debtors find ways to come up with the money. But when they just don't pay, the state pulls out its own hammers.
They would begin doing bank attachments, wage garnishments, in some cases, even if it's very egregious, we may even go so far as a foreclosure.
Dog got hit by a car.
Veterinarian Terry Oktursky admits he owes the state something, but disputes the state's claim that he owes close to $200,000 in sales tax. He's been making payments, though, and blames only himself.
It just got neglected. It was neglect on my part, you know.
And then it snowballs.
And then it snowballs.
Well, I was there when it happened.
And Dan Bays says he's paying down his $390,000 debt at $200 a month.
I'm not opposed to the pain of it, but the fruitlessness of it, we're never going to get that much money paid back, but I don't object to paying the $200. That's what they ordered, that's what they'll get.
Oh. Thank you, thank you.
And Bobby Thompson at Bob's Locksmith is now working with an attorney to resolve his tax debt with the state. They're not all big dollar amounts on the list. The accounts go all the way down to less than $1. And yes, the state does still try to collect on those as well. For 10 Investigates, I'm Ted Hart.